Hello and welcome. So I must admit, I never really got around to testing the HDMI output on my new Retroid Pocket 2S. Not that I ever really intend to dock it and use it as a home console, but it is a feature that's supposed to work right out of the box. I was watching TechDreep's review video of the Powkitty RGB30, that's another handheld that's supposed to ship with working HDMI out, but in what seems like an isolated case to his unit, it wasn't working on his. While watching his video, it dawned on me that I never tested HDMI out on my new device, the RP2S. It's always a good idea to check everything when you get a new gadget. Catch any issues early, and you might be able to get a working replacement or a refund to grab something else. Anyway, I tested the display output on my RP2S, and we have picture. So I guess it works. Well, I mean, if we're okay with sacrificing some screen space and having black bars on both the left and the right of the display, then sure, it works. On this 21-inch monitor, we're losing little over 1 inch of potential screen space on each side of the picture. Now this in fact is pretty awesome for more accurately representing 4x3 systems emulation, but if we try to run PSP games, which have a 16:9 aspect ratio, we'll be treated to additional black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, despite the fact that the monitor the RP2S is plugged into is a 16:9 monitor. Now I know there are quite a few of you eyeing the Retroid Pocket 2S, but are on the fence about getting one solely because of the handheld's 3.5-inch screen and how it plays with PSP games, PC game streaming, and maybe even some Android gaming. Anything that can be 16:9 really. And though one might think, if I get an RP2S, yeah, using it handheld, PSP looks too tiny, but at least I can blow up my PSP games on a TV or monitor at home, right? Well, out of the box, this is what you can expect PSP to look like. With even more additional screen real estate issues when PC game streaming and 16:9 Android gaming. Unfortunately, Retroid's made something perfectly capable of PSP emulation that will likely just render games too small to be enjoyable for some. What this thing really needed that would have partially mitigated that is proper 16:9 output, and that could have been a game changer for this device. But maybe not all hope is lost. Though I don't have a perfect solution, let's explore some workarounds we can do to improve how 16:9 gaming feels on the Retroid Pocket 2S's screen itself. Then, I'll show how I get PSP games to play corner to corner, edge to edge, full screen on a 16:9 external monitor, accurately to scale. Let's tackle PSP and Android on the handheld's display. PSP's quickest screen fix on here is in PPSSPP's menu, which we can get into once you've launched and are in a PSP game. Press whichever is your Android back button, then go into Settings, then Graphics, then on the right, not far from the top, we scroll to Display Layout and Effects, and hit Stretch.
And unless you're a monster that stretches the display, it's not the best experience.
Yes, I know what you're thinking, and I know it's not accurate representation of the 16:9 picture. Squishing PSP picture on the sides while also pulling the picture to stretch upward and downward does not make for the best form. But I think that to casual non-accuracy purists, it does not look that bad on the screen. And if for you it does, stay with me till I get to what we're going to do with HDMI Out. In terms of the 2S's display, at least stretching here fills out the whole screen, and with the goal of making text bigger and easier to read, this feels good enough on a more value than perfection and power targeted handheld. It's actually easy to get used to. What we've done to the picture hasn't affected my ability to do anything like land precise jumps, nor has it made any tight driving maneuvers any harder for me to do. Let's move on to Android gaming. Some Android games, like Honkai Star Rail, or like the game I'm testing with here, Guardian Tales. I got a request to see if Guardian Tales runs smoothly, and it does. without ever heating up the RP2S. I didn't notice any bugs or slowdowns at all. But yeah, anyway, Honkai Star Rail and Guardian Tales auto-correct in scaling themselves to 4x3, but this isn't always the case on Android. As I demonstrated in my RP2S review, I use an app called Purr to tinker with changing resolutions to force rescaling on apps that do not auto-fit screen correctly. $1280 by 960 seems to be the magic resolution in Purr to force scaling to the RP2S screen. It's not one of the preset options though, so unless you're okay with having to custom input it every time, I recommend tapping to enter the Saved Resolutions menu, where you can input and save a resolution to be an available option inside this menu. Now, every time we need to switch from 1280 to 960, we can go into Saved Resolutions and select it. Be careful with selecting resolutions in here. It might be difficult to fix and find a way to get back and revert the resolution back to default, or at least back to a previous safe resolution. For this purpose, I highly recommend making sure Verify Resolution is checked. We want this on so that if you accidentally tap a different resolution, as long as you don't touch all 4 boxes in the little corner-to-corner verification test it does, the device will automatically revert back to its previous resolution. With that verification on, functioning as a kind of safety net, I hope for any novice tinkerers watching, that dispels any fears you might have of potentially messing up the display to a point that you can't revert it back. Okay, so returning to the device's normal default resolution when you're done with Android 16 by 9 stuff is as easy as going back to the first menu options of the Purr app and tapping the very first and top option that says Reset Display. Now let's try PC game streaming. Here I have GTA 5 for PC running with the Retroid Pocket 2S connected to it through Steam Link. We're looking at GTA 5 for PC right now because it's typically played in 16 by 9, but I know that it supports being played in 4 by 3. We can find and select 4 by 3 aspect ratio in graphic settings. It'll conform the game to a 4 by 3 window on our PC's display, and as I'm showing here, we can see that the RP2S screen is perfectly filled out without having any of our heads-up display cropped out or missing. I don't think anything is cropped out. So yeah, it's as easy as that to game stream 4 by 3 supported PC games to portably play them on the Pocket 2S. It'll take a little bit more than that though to stream PC games that don't lend themselves to being played in 4 by 3. The game we'll be looking at in this example is The Outer Worlds. With no built-in option to switch our desired aspect ratio, nor a 4 by 3 res in its selection of resolutions, let's just settle with changing the in-game resolution to 1200 by 800. After that, since we can't force 4 by 3 in-game, instead we're going to go into Windows Settings, which we can do by hitting the Start button on our keyboard. Then while the Start menu is up, the Settings app will show up as an option as we begin to search, typing in Settings. Once we're in Settings, let's go into System, and we look on the left to make sure we're on the Display tab. Within the Display tab, under Scale and Layout, we want to change the resolution. In this case, mine is 920 by 1080, a typical 16 by 9 resolution. Note, try to remember your default resolution just in case, even though Windows will likely remember your default, just so you can change it back when you want to stop streaming and use your PC. So I'll change 1920 by 1080 to that magic resolution that we used earlier in this video to force rescaling in the Purr app. What was that resolution again? Right, 1280 by 960. Now, if I'm game streaming The Outer Worlds from my PC with the in-game settings as well as the Windows settings changed to what I put in, The Outer Worlds should perfectly fill the Retroid Pocket 2S screen. And if you find that it doesn't, try going out of, then back into full screen. Again, no part of the heads-up display is lost, or even partially cropped out, and I don't think any of the picture is. Now, let's go all the way back to looking at HDMI output on our external display. As of now, I only know this next workaround to help specifically with how PSP will look going into the bigger screen. Everything we need to try and fix it, we should be able to find not on the RP2S, but rather on the monitor or TV. Not all, but most modern average HDMI capable TVs and monitors probably have a zoom feature and or a feature called overscan. Enabling overscan should now rescale PSP picture from the RP2S properly, filling out this 16:9 monitor. If your display only has zoom, then you will need to finagle with zooming using the monitors menu while playing with the aspect ratio slider that's inside of PPSSPP. The aspect ratio slider is in the display layouts and effects menu from back when we toggled on stretch to play on the handheld screen. Make sure stretch is off though when rescaling to play on an external display, like we're doing now. In conclusion, if you're getting an RP2S, magic numbers to remember are 1280 by 960. We've taken a deep dive into Android gaming, PC game streaming, and PSP, since these are the most obvious games with onboard display challenges. As we've seen, with moderate tweaks here and there, we can get an okay enjoyable 4x3 experience while playing handheld. And we can get an accurate, even more enjoyable 16:9 gaming experience, even with the RP2S's 4x3 limitations. Despite the added challenge when it comes to the gaming we talked about in this video, I still stand by the RP2S as a solid gaming device, especially given the vast library of other games and systems you can enjoy flawlessly on the stock 4x3 touch display, from NES to Dreamcast, and a little of PS2 and GameCube. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss my gaming showcase videos for PS2 and GameCube coming soon. So that's it for this one. I hope you found the information helpful in your quest for the ultimate pocket retro gaming experience. If you want a more in-depth look at the Retroid Pocket 2S, please check out my full review that I'll have linked in the description if it's not on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.